All right, everybody. So welcome back to the channel. I am not in the basement. I am at Carpenters Crossing, Black Horse Road at Strasburg with this model of the crossing. We are gonna go through the process on how to build this right now. Let's go check it out. First step of this process is we have to cut the base. So I have 1/2 inch plywood here and I've got it marked out. So I've got 12 inches here. I've got 12 inches here and then 4 inches. So and it goes to 40 1/4. So I got 40 inches of track. So we're gonna cut this out and this is basically gonna be the back. This will kind of turn up and screw in to the back of this. And then we'll have the foam board and so on to have that all blend. That's the plan. And then what we'll do is I've got some MDF left over, some of the 1/8 inch. That'll kind of be the fascia here on the sides that we'll paint black. That's gonna be the plan. So I'm gonna cut this with my track saw, and then we'll get this piece built up, and then we'll put the foam on, and then we'll do the fascia piece last. And so I'm gonna go ahead and cut this and show you the product once we get it screwed together. So I've drilled some pilot holes in this piece. This is just gonna screw right into the back, but to strengthen this joint, I always like to use some wood glue. So I'm gonna be using Type-On 3. This is just what I always use in my shop. We're gonna get some squeeze out. It's gonna be a little messy, that's okay. We're just gonna put some of this on here. And then I always will run a bead here as well. And then I just kind of use my finger just to rub that in. Those wood fibers will soak that up. So we're gonna do that and we'll get it screwed together here. So we've got this built up. Now we're gonna have foam on top of this. I've got the 2-inch thick foam. So that's gonna be layered. Now this is again gonna be the Carpenters Crossing or the Black Horse Road crossing at Strasburg before 190 arrives. It's gonna be kind of like a display case for it. So this is pretty thick. This is 1 foot. So it's gonna be a scale 50 feet. So, it's gonna be, I might end up cutting it down. We'll just have to wait and see how it all looks. But what I wanna do is have 90 here where it's crossing Black Horse Road, and then have like the Carpenters sign over here on the very end. And so we're gonna think about having the road cross over here. And so this is gonna be the crossing section. And so what we're gonna do is gonna take like a square. Now this is gonna be built up, right? Because when you're looking at that hill, if you're coming up the hill, it flattens off for the crossing and then kind of continues up, and the ground comes up where that field is, and then there's the cemetery over here. So what we're gonna do is kind of mark that off and then kind of plan what we wanna do, and then we have to go there and look at it to get some better measurements. All right, so here I am at the crossing, and we've got this big cut here in tobacco. Comes up and then goes up again to that field. Trail up to that field. The road kind of continues up that way slightly. We've got the cemetery there, carpenter signs. All right, and pretty good timing here because the train is actually coming through right now. So we'll let it come through. But this is what we're gonna go for. Mostly this over here. So low shrubs, no trees in the back. And just in time, here comes 90. So I've got my big piece of the foam insulation board. I usually just try to keep some of this at home. This is 1.5 inches. I just kind of keep it stored out in my shed. So what we're gonna do is measure off. We have 40 inches of length, and I'm gonna need 2 at 40 inches by a foot. So we're gonna mark off 40 inches there. And we're gonna come down 24 inches or 2 feet. So I've got these cut here, and this is gonna be the incline behind the road. So I've got it marked off with some Sharpie. The road's gonna come up the hill, flatten off to the crossing. We've got the marked off where the gates will go. The road kind of veers off a little bit. We've got some cinders where people pull off to watch the train. This is the cemetery, which is actually the oldest cemetery in Lancaster County. That goes really steep up that hill. So I've kind of got that roughly marked off. What I'm gonna do is begin to contour this hill here, and then we'll do the same to this to blend it all in, get it fixed in place, and then we can begin doing some scenery. I'm using the multi-tool here. I've got my pictures of the crossing. I've cut out this field here. So this is the tobacco field. It comes up. Here's where the track's going to come across. Here's Black Horse Road. And then this is the other side where it actually comes up to a higher berm and then kind of drops back down to where the track is. And then this is going to be the far side of the crossing. So on this side here, if we look in, this comes right up into this hill. And then there's actually a pathway that's going to come off the road here and come up. So we're going to work on doing that piece now, and then we'll come back and we'll do this side over here. Okay, so we got this cut out. So this goes here, and that's your view coming up over the road. So not too bad. This comes right down flush. This, I could probably work on this to try to get that a little bit lower. But then what we're gonna do is we're gonna get this set in place, and then we'll add some Sculpt-A-Mold. And then once that's dry, we can begin painting. All right, we are ready for some Sculpt-A-Mold. So I've got a bucket of water here. I'm just gonna put some of this in here. Way down. But let's start there. So we're just gonna start here and work our way down. All right, I'm working on my grade crossing here. So I took some of the other 1/8" MDF that I had, or hardboard, and I basically cut it so it'll fit in between these rails. And then I've got the other pieces here that are gonna go on either side of the ties there. And I've got it so it's set so there's some space, so it's more prototypical. This is the same width as the road. Now technically this should be a little bit wider, or a little bit longer rather, according to the prototype. So I'm gonna see how this looks, and I might change it to make it more realistic. I haven't decided yet, but I have to cut some expansion joints into this. And so I do that with just a utility knife here. And I just etch that in, those expansion joints, and then we're gonna hit it with the camo. I've got a Rust-Oleum out here in the shop today, so this is what we're gonna use. This is like the khaki color. So this is what I usually use for concrete. I have taken the base outside, the Sculpt-A-Mold's dry, and I've hit it with a bunch of different combinations of other camo colors, from black to dark brown to light brown to this green. And I'll show you that in a minute as well. So to cut these expansion joints, I want them to be somewhat uniform with each other, and so they would line up. So we're gonna get that end together. And just come across just like that. Gotta be very careful when using these utility knives. Just like that. Doesn't have to be perfect, but we're gonna hit that with the Krylon, let it dry, and then we'll get it in place. So here's this. Get these track pieces just in place. Again, just a rough fit. Again, this is gonna get covered with ground foam and scenic, so on. So just get a rough fit of the roads. Biggest issue that I have is this one here is curved. You can kind of see that contour because this is an uphill slope. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to get that to work out quite as well as I want it to. All right, so I've got some base green, and I've got like a dirt or dead foliage ground cover down here in the field, and then at the base of this hill, bringing out some super trees that I've had made up and just haven't used, as well as some bulk foliage. We need to create the ground cover on the slopes. So let me pull up my pictures here. So here's the hill that we're doing. And you'll see this is covered in foliage, as is that. Probably could even get away with some static grass here if we wanted to, but that's a lot of bushes. And then we'll have the tobacco in where the brown is down here. So bushes and then the trees. So that's what we have to make happen in the scene here. So if we look here, I've added the trees, as you can see, and just put a bunch of like the foliage and bushes and things like that, and just kind of glued them in place. Same thing down here. And then I took some static grass. This is actually like the 3-inch Woodland Scenics field grass. I cut it and then just put some white glue down and stuck it in there. You can see where some of the white glue is coming through, but for the most part, that looks pretty good. This is Brennan's Model Railroading ground cover that I have down here. This is where the tobacco should go. I haven't found like the tobacco plants in O scale. Usually like JTT Products would make something like that. Haven't found anything that I really like, and I don't want to spend a bunch of money on it. So we're just gonna let it go with just the field for now. So I've done a lot of work on this module kind of on the back end here and there, working on some things and finishing up some ground cover. So you can kind of see where we're at with the crossing. Now, the crossing over at Carpenters, now I'm sitting outside and there's cars going by. I'm gonna try to speak up and speak over them. I've added a utility pole. I'm not gonna put any wires on there, but there's a utility pole right there at the crossing. There's also obviously a crossing gate on either side of the road. And then there's a little kind of like power box, if you will, that sits here. So what I've done is I've taken just some plastruct, some styrene, and scratch built this little shed. And this has a pole that comes out that connects to some wires. I'm not going to connect any wires to it, but this basically just sits here. Now this one's a little large for the scale of what this is, and I kind of did it all, just kind of threw it together. And it's actually my first take on it, using styrene to build anything. So I was kind of happy with how that kind of came together. It's a little big, but it would sit here, and it's not level, unfortunately. We're gonna stick that there for now. Technically this sits on cinder blocks, so I might be able to build some cinder blocks that actually help level that off, but we'll just stick it there. Now I've got, this is an NJ International crossing gate, and this obviously has the 3 tracks on it, which is obviously not accurate. This was on my layout. I tore part of it up, and this was sitting on my scenery cart. So what I'm thinking is, obviously it'd be great to have one of these on either side of the road. Which side makes the most sense for this to be on for photos? I'm thinking it would probably make sense to have it on this side. The issue is it has that 3 track sign there, which isn't totally accurate since this is only 1 track. So maybe it would be best served on that side of the road, because if we're getting photos, you don't want something obstructing the view of the train itself. And then I could have a car parked over there and have that more in the background. So this I already have a base that I made out of wood for this, and that's what attaches to the layout. So what I might do is just leave that on there and then cut out some of the ballast here and stick that in place. And I'll just have that be down. These things work with like a tortoise switch machine, and it just kind of moves this metal. They're kind of flimsy and difficult to use, but it looks nice. So let's put that in, and then what we'll do is we'll go get a train and stick it on here and see what it looks like. And you can see some of the other work that I've done. Added some of the long dead grass here right before the field. We've got some bigger trees. I went and got some branches and built some taller trees with what I had foliage wise here and here. I should probably do some more, but for now this is pretty good. So let's get this installed, and then we're gonna go grab 8618 and a boxcar, and we'll see what this looks like. All right, so I've got a little artista figure photographer that I found. This is more of an old school camera we're gonna use it with modern equipment, but he's gonna go there. I just took a piece of styrene and painted it green in case he would be standing in the grass. I probably should have done black. He's gonna be standing here in the blacktop, but we're gonna put him here in the foreground. And then we've got our building here. I've got the crossing gate down on the other side of the road. We put a car there. So now we're ready to add a train to this and find a spot where we can get, see, it's windy outside. This is what happens when you're out in the elements. Find a spot that we can get a picture where we just have sky and some trees in the background.
I don't have a whole lot of options where I'm currently at, but we're gonna do our best. So let me grab 8618 in the box car and we'll see what it looks like here, and then we'll try to find a better spot to get some more realistic photos. All right, so that was it. So I know I didn't get everything covered in this video, but like I said in my introduction when we get started, that I wasn't gonna go over the entire scenery process, but tell me what you think. I mean, this is pretty cool. It was a fun project. I like doing things like this because it helps me practice my scenery work and kind of different modeling skills, and just try something different that maybe I'll apply to my layout in the future when I redo some different parts of it. So this isn't obviously a perfect representation. I don't have a crossing gate here on the other side. I could add that. I think I have an extra crossing gate in the back of my shop. I could probably add at some point in time, and maybe we'll do some more videos or shots of this, but I think it looks really good. We'll have some still shots that maybe you've seen of this. We'll get it lined up with the track and the background. There's obviously the big crossing gates behind me, so maybe we'll have to edit those out of some of these pictures, but let me know what you think. This was a fun project for me, and we get some more shots of it here, and then I guess I'll just put it in the shop. I don't know what I'm gonna end up doing with this thing in the long run. Maybe we'll do a giveaway. Someone wants this. I think when 90 comes in, we'll definitely have to get some shots with that, and I don't know, maybe I can make it a shelf piece or something like that, or display in the basement. We'll just have to check it out. So anyway, thanks everyone. Hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't. Really appreciate it. Thank you all so much. Have a great day.